everyone, welcome to my video. In this video, I'm going to talk about conditional statements in Python coding. First of all, let's go through some common comparison expressions. We need to use them in our conditional statements. So first of all, we have this equal to sign here. So in Python coding, when you want to compare two, for example, numbers, and you want to test out whether they are equal to each other, you're going to use this double equal sign. So if you only have one equal sign, that means you are assigning a value to a variable. But if you want to compare the two values, you use double equal sign. So this equal sign applying to integer, float, and even like string. You can compare two string values there. And this sign refers to greater than or equal to. We usually use this one to numbers like integers or floats. This one means less than or equal to. So this one only is used for numbers like integers or floats. And this one refers to not equal to. So we use this not equal to a sign for integer, float, those numbers, and also string values. And this one means greater than. We use this one to compare two numbers. And this is less than. We use this one to compare also to numbers. So with the background knowledge of using these different comparison signs, let's see how we can come up with our own conditional statements. So let's look at one example, if statement. So if statement basically means that only if certain condition has been met, then Python will execute your coding. If your condition has not been met, then Python will not execute your line of coding. So that's what if statement here means. So let's see one example. So first of all, we use one equal sign. Remember, see here, one equal sign means that you're going to assign this value on the right-hand side to the variable on the left-hand side. So we are creating a new variable called rabbit, and we assign an integer number 2 to rabbit. So as a result, rabbit becomes an integer variable that has a value of 2. So here is our first if statement. We start with the word if, and then a white space, and then the variable name rabbit. And then we put the greater sign here, and we compare rabbit's value with number 1. And don't forget the colon here. And then you're gonna start another line. And this second line here is indented. And the indented here means that it's part of the if statement. It's based on the if statement. Only when the if statement is a true statement, then Python will execute this line of coding for you. So that's what here means. So here, so you can see that this one, we can see because our rabbit has a value of 2. So if rabbit is greater than 1, this going to be a true statement. So Python will run this line coding for you and print out I love rabbit for you. And next, there's another if statement. So it asks you if rabbit is equal to 2. The statement is also true. So Python will also run this another line of coding for you and print out another I love rabbit sentence for you. The third statement, if rabbit is not equal to 2, then do this. But this if statement is not true. So Python will not run this line of coding for you and will not print out I love rabbit for you. So let's see here. Let's see the output here. See, we only have 2 I love rabbit because the third one here is not executed because the third if statement is not true. That is why when we run these lines of coding, we only have 2 outputs here. Okay, let's see another if statement example. So when we do if statement to do the comparison, we actually can actually compare two string values. They don't have to be numbers, they can be string values. So let's see, we first create a new variable called rabbit. We assign the string value animal to the rabbit variable. And then we use the if statement here to compare this variable's value with the string value animal. And we say if rabbit is equal to the string value animal, we know this is a true statement. Then Python will print out I love rabbit for you. So this one has been printed out here. And the next if statement is if rabbit is not equal to animal, the string value. We know this if statement is a false statement. So this line of coding will not be printed out. That's why you only see one output there. And that's the reason. So here we create a variable called rabbit. We assign the string value animal to this variable rabbit. And then we create another variable called GPA. We assign the float value 3.5 to this variable GPA. And then we have our if statement. So we say if rabbit's value, the value of this variable, is equal to the string value animal. So this is our first condition, this part. And we know this is a true condition, okay? And then we have an add word here. So add word here means that when all the conditions have been met, then Python will run the next line of coding for you. So the first condition has been met. So let's see the second condition, GPA is greater than 3. We know the GPA has the value of 3.5. So this second condition has also been met. So, and then we have a column here that finishes our if statement. We know the whole if statement is true because both conditions have been met. So the whole if statement is true here, okay? And then Python will run this line of coding for you and print out I love rabbit, period. That's the whole logic. So let's see another type of conditional statement, if or statement. So let's see here. Still, we create a variable called rabbit and we assign the string value to rabbit animal. So rabbit has a string value animal. And then we create another variable called GPA. We assign a float value to GPA. And now we want to do if or statement. So if or statement here, between if and or, we have first condition. If rabbit is equal to animal, we know this is a true condition. So we have to also check the second condition. The second condition is also true. But actually, when you use if or statement, only one of the conditions is true, then your whole if statement will be true. But in our case, both conditions have been met. They are true conditions, so the whole if statement is true. But if you use or here, only one of the conditions needs to be met. Then the whole if statement will be true, and Python will run this line of coding and print out I love rabbit, period, for you. So let's see another complex conditional statement example here. So here we create a rabbit variable first, assign a string value to this variable rabbit, and then we create another variable called weight. We assign an integer value to this weight variable, and then we create another new variable called GPA. We assign the float value to this variable. So now we finished 3 lines of coding. We move on to the next coding. Then we have this if statement. So here we use parentheses. Parentheses means that you're going to actually regard these part inside the parentheses as a whole part. Means that the whole part inside your parentheses needs to be true. So let's read this whole part together. So the whole part is saying that rabbits is equal to animal string value. Yes, it is. And GPA is less than 3. This part is wrong. It's false. However, because we are having an or statement here, so that means only one of them needs to be true, then the whole part will be true. Okay, so that's how we read it. So the first whole part is true, and then we can see the second part after add condition. Weight is equal to 100. Yes, it is true here. You see that? So that means both conditions have been met because we have an add word here. It means the first condition, the second condition both of them need to be true. So the whole if statement is true. Then we're going to run this line of coding and Python will print out, I love rabbit, period, for you. That's how we can read it. Let's see another conditional statement, if, else statement. So the same as before, we first create a variable called GPA. We assign the float value to this GPA variable, so it becomes a float variable. And then we do if statement. If GPA is greater than 3.5, we know this if statement is false. So Python will not run this line of coding for you, okay? Then if else means that if the statement is false, then Python will automatically jump to the else statement and execute the line of coding under the else condition, okay? So Python will automatically print out, I am still amazing for you. So this one will be executed. So in other words, when your if statement is false, Python will jump to the else statement and run it and execute the line of coding there and do something for you. Let's see another complex example here about the if else statement. Let's see this one here. Still, we have GPA. We create a variable called GPA. We assign the float value to this GPA. And we do a bunch of if statements. Let's see what's going to happen. So the first if statement says that if GPA is between 2.5 and 3, then print out I am good. And because our GPA has a value of 3.5, so this first if statement is false. So Python will not then run this line of coding for you, execute the line of coding for you. So then Python will move to the next if and make a decision as to whether this is true or false. So because our GPA has a value of 3.5 and it is between 3 and 3.6, so this one is true statement. So Python will print out, I am amazing for you here. Then Python will jump to the next one and run the next if statement. And it says that if GPA is between 3.6 and 4, we know this statement is false because GPA is not between that range. Then Python will not execute this line of coding for you. But then we have an else statement. That's really interesting. Well, because this else statement is just after this if statement. So when this if statement is not executed, Python will then jump to this else statement automatically. Okay, so this else statement and this if statement are together. So once the if statement is not executed, Python will jump to your else statement and print out, I hope I am good. See here. So that's why we have two outputs. That's the whole logic. So the order of the if statement is really important here. So let's see another example. If I change the order of the if statements, I move, let's say, this part at the very top. Let's see what's going to happen here. Let's read this whole part together as a practice. Okay, so let me get my annotate. So let's see, we have a new variable called GPA. We set the value of 3.5 to GPA. And then Python gonna then jump to the next line of coding, the if statement. So it will make a decision as to whether it's true or false. Because GPA has a value of 3.5, so it does not fall into the range of 3.6 and 4. So this is a false statement. And then Python will not run this line of coding under that if statement. Then Python will automatically jump to the next if statement and make a decision as to whether this is true or false. And we know 3.5 is not between 2.5 and 3. So Python will not run this line of coding under the second if statement because that's another false statement. Then Python will jump to the next if statement and make a decision. And Python realized that this is a true statement because GPA has a value of 3.5. It's between 3 and 3.6. So Python will print out but Python will print out I am amazing for you here, will execute this line of coding. And because this if statement and the nearby else statements are together, so once the if statement is being executed successfully, the else statement will automatically be ignored. So this line of coding, I hope I am good, will not be printed out. Let me run this one here for you. See? So you can see that when you change the position of your if statement, the output will be totally different, which can be confusing. That is why we also have another better version to replace the multiple if statements. We can use if, elif, else statement. So let's see what that means. So we have a GPA that has the value of 3.5. So this variable has the value of 3.5. Then we move on to our next line of coding. The first if statement says that if GPA is between 2.5 and 3, that statement we know is false. So this next line of coding under the if statement will not be executed. Okay, and then Python will jump to the next elif statement. So the elif statement says that if GPA is between 3 and 3.6, well, that elif statement is true. And Python will print out I am amazing for you, will execute this line of coding. So here is the output. Because this is elif statement, so once an elif statement is true, the rest of the elif and else statements will be ignored by Python, and Python will not execute them. So you can see the difference between elif and if. So when you have if statement, any if statement, all the if statement will be executed by Python, will be run by Python, no matter whether it's true or false. Python will run it and see whether it's true or false. It takes more time. But when you have elif, once the elif statement is true, Python will stop running, will ignore the rest of the part in your coding. So it saves more time, and also the precision does not matter anymore. As long as one of your conditional statement is true, the rest of them will be ignored. If that is, your design goal, then you can stick to this one and use if, elif, else statement.